One of the things that we hear, because you kind of mentioned earlier, the benefit for smaller companies and larger companies. And, we talked about the smaller companies, all the administrative work is done. So they don't have to hire somebody when they're fresh out of the gates, and they can't afford to hire somebody in the office right now. So it buys them time to kind of accumulate the profitability so they can hire somebody when it's the right time. And then for larger companies, when we have 100 technicians, the problem is that we have seen through many years of personal experience and working with all these other contractors is that usually when we get to having 30 technicians in the field, or even less, what happens is the administrative wages will continue to climb at a very quick rate. And sometimes it becomes balanced with field staff. That's when you throw away your profit as a business, because there are certain percentages and ratios that you should be within as a company to remain profitable. So what we're doing is, because in most companies, they hire somebody to manage the maintenance agreements. They have somebody do purchasing. They have somebody and it's like one person for one little task. And with ThermoGrid, what happens is, managing maintenance agreements and all those other administrative tasks, they're done automatically. So you don't need to keep hiring people to manage those jobs. And just to give you an idea, like maintenance agreements, that was number 2 pain point for me as general manager, because we had like thousands of agreements that we didn't fulfill at the end of the year, and we knew we couldn't do it.
Right.
And one of our core values is, integrity. So you got to do the right thing. Well, what we did is, most softwares, when you sell a maintenance agreement, you need to attach it to the client. You need to set your visit dates. You need to create a subscription. Then you need to batch your payments. And then, you have an accounting software, maybe QuickBooks, where you have to have a subscription created there. And then you got to go in and click a button to receive the payments every month. And you have thousands of memberships. That's why you need one person to manage just that one task. But in ThermoGrid, what we've done is made it where those things are, you have to do them. And that's what ThermoGrid's about. If you know you have to do something every time, why not just make it automatic? So when we attach that maintenance agreement to the client, it pre-schedules the visit dates. It automatically creates a subscription. It automatically charges their card or the bank account. It automatically batches the payments. It automatically sends over a sales receipt to QuickBooks as the payment received. And if it doesn't receive, it automatically emails you that the payment didn't clear, and it doesn't send it through. So it's one step in managing maintenance agreements.
That's amazing. So with the QuickBooks, is it a two-way communication or is it a one-way communication with QuickBooks?
It's actually two-way communication, and every client has a unique identifier, so it doesn't duplicate clients or anything like that.
Sweet.
So it keeps the accounting clean, which all the accounting individuals that would hear this would be like, oh, thank God.
Yes.
Because that's their nightmare. So we have two-way communication. You can actually sync an invoice multiple times from ThermoGrid, and it makes it where you don't need multiple people in an accounting software. You can have one person in there. Everything's done from ThermoGrid. It allows you to do project billing, all of it.
That's really cool. Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. I hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh Blissett. Today's episode is an exciting one. We're going to talk CRMs. I'm kind of a geek when it comes to metrics and just data in general. I think that in order for you to have a successful business, especially in a business that you could potentially step away from for a week and have a halfway decent vacation, it requires a good functioning, high functioning CRM. So if you're just using an Excel spreadsheet, technically you could probably do it with an Excel spreadsheet starting out, but I feel like wholeheartedly you need a good, well-oiled machine, and a CRM is a vital part of that program. So today I'm excited to have Adam Corey with ThermoGrid on the show. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and why ThermoGrid, why even having this program. Whenever you first started with ThermoGrid, was there another option out there for you to use?
Yeah. So a little bit about myself. I mean, I am a contractor. I have my master's license for the state of Iowa today, and I started out as an installer, and I was putting in furnace air conditioners, replacing them, and kind of worked my way up to being a technician, and then went into sales because an opportunity opened up for that,
Mm-hmm.
and sales manager, operations manager, and general manager, and with that kind of experience, we were using another platform at that time,
Yeah.
but that's kind of what caused me to create ThermoGrid,
Mm-hmm.
and why we have it today is because there are certain features that the software didn't have, and there were certain pieces that just didn't connect. So it was kind of interesting, doing one function and having to redo it in other areas of the platform.
Yeah.
So what I did is it's funny you say Excel because that's where ThermoGrid started. I created features in Excel, and then it kind of bridged in the gaps of this platform. And then, it's become, the software it is today, being a cloud-based program.
So how long ago was it that you, like, I guess, when did you get in the industry? I got in like 05, and my progression was very similar to yours. But I remember we were using Desco back when it was DOS based, so it was like F7, F6, F11 to go to a certain screen. I'm like, just thinking back to like, oh, the good old days when the screens were green and black.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Perfect. So like, and it's funny you say that because back when we were in Desco, we had a business coach out of Seattle. They're a really good program, BDR. I don't currently use them, but I've used them in the past. And some of the programs, the questions they would ask, we could get it from our CRM, but it was, you had to like print out a bunch of sheets and then like manually click here, click there, or highlight these areas and then manually count it out. And so I got into this habit of where every single day I would take the GPS from the technicians' vans, and I would punch it into these little scorecards. And I built formulas so that I could tell my gross profit per man day every single day at the end of the day, or the next morning when I did it for the previous day. And so like it wasn't a full blown CRM by any means. I'm not saying that, but that was like my version of, okay, this is how I'm going to track profitability in the service department whenever I was service manager.
yeah, and I had a very similar system. I was using Successware
Okay.
21. And, the KPIs are extremely important in this industry. You have to know your metrics and your numbers, and you need to know it daily if you want to be able to correct things. And
Yeah.
we would spend hours every morning pulling all the reports to calculate callback ratios and average tickets in each type of department, and dollars per lead, and run rates, and all of those things. I mean, and I built this spreadsheet where we'd run all these reports, and then we'd plug in the information into this report that had formulas in it to tell us the data that we really wanted. And, so that was probably the second feature that we created in ThermoGrid to make it where it would automatically give us what's called a daily management report. So I could click on any individual person or department and see all of the stats. There's no running reports.
That's really cool. So with ThermoGrid, both of us are in the HVAC industry, or we're in the HVAC industry. And is it pretty specific to HVAC, or can it be used in other trades?
The only thing that's really specific to HVAC is we do have load calculations in it. So it'll calculate room by room load calcs, or floor by floor, or a whole home by
that's really cool.
As one calc. So, it'll even convert it to 80% systems to high efficiency, or even, what KW you need for an electric air handler. All that's done in the system just by putting in, the proper data from Windows installation.
So what is this 90% you speak of?
Like a high efficiency furnace.
I'm kidding.
I mean, you were really in the
industry? We're in the heat pump country here.
Yeah,
so
Yep.
if we see plastic flue pipes, service techs are like, somebody's about to get fired. You're not supposed to have plastic flue pipes.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. So I think that's, I mean, from what I've spoken with some people from your crew, that there's a lot of things that separate you from other players in this industry, but that's kind of like a game changer because, for one, most people don't do heat loads. Period. Like they just take out, it's like for like. So you take out a system and you put another system back in this exact same, and you're just hoping that the builder did a proper heat load when they installed it. And then once you've experienced working with or working for a contractor who does new construction, then you're like, okay, so maybe they didn't do a heat load before they put this system in. So maybe it's been guesswork for the whole time. So I think that's freaking awesome. The heat load portion of it. Now is that a manual entry, like a, are you having, or did you bring in, like, I guess I have a lot of technical questions on that aspect. Is it like is it something that has to be updated all the time? I'm curious because if you use something like RightSoft or anything, like, I feel like those are updated pretty regularly. But then I've heard of other programs that actually like use Google and like Google Maps to perform heat loads. I don't know how that could be super accurate, but I guess
Right.
could you dive down into that just a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, when people are going off of, Google or anything like that, and
Yeah.
we're looking at square feet. I mean, that's
Right.
what a lot of people do is they do the rule of thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that there's a lot of factors that determine the size, because I could have a 1,200 square foot home and a 4,000 square foot home need the exact same size of system to be, functioning at their peak.
Mm-hmm.
So, we do have to account for windows and insulation and things like that. And yes, it does need to be updated because things change. I mean, if I look at the calc, 15 years ago, what we were using for formulas, it's different because we use different types of R values now in the walls and in the attic and different types of windows and stuff. So it is updated, and it's very easy to use. I mean, they just click add and then they choose what they're adding. Are they adding a window? And then they put the dimensions in and what type of window it is. And then they add in a wall and the R value that's in the wall. And there's even like little cheat descriptions in there that tell people, because most people maybe don't know what R13 is or 24. So it kind of gives them an example of what would be considered that. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, you're right. Most people don't do load calcs. And, I moved into a house 5 years ago when I moved up to the Dubuque area. And I told them, do a load calc. I know the industry. I know my business here. They didn't do a heat load, and they put in a system way too small. It would not get down under 75 degrees. And for me, that's miserable. I mean, I got to be like 70 or less. Right. So, and most people don't do it because they just don't know how. They'll have their suppliers do it. And the problem with that is when you have it where you can't give a full quote or price to a client right there on the spot, and then you need somebody else to come in and do a load calc and then get back to them. I mean, you just cut your closing ratio in half. Yeah, so these are some of the numbers that we track in ThermoGrid of how successful people are based on the processes that they use. And it is definitely known that if you can just do everything right on the spot, from your load calc to all your checklist documents, and then price it and get the signature and the payment on the spot, your closing ratio will be significantly higher.
Cool. So I know that a lot of people are listening are going to want to know like some of the features, and like the problem that I have whenever I talk to people before I do the interview is that I forget that you've told me like, oh, that feature. Oh yeah, that. I forgot about that. And then whenever I'm first talking to you, then it's like, I don't know anything about the product, so I'm asking a million questions like a little kid. And the downside is I've already spoken with Mary, and I've talked to her about a lot of things, and so I don't want to forget to mention anything about ThermoGrid. So could you kind of go through ThermoGrid and tell me, I guess, what's awesome about ThermoGrid, what makes you different, and then what's to come with ThermoGrid? I know one thing that's really cool is QuickBooks and the updated QuickBooks and stuff like that. I didn't even know about QuickBooks doing an update until I talked to Mary, so that was cool.
Yeah, there was some pretty neat features that are there. Plus, what we do is we look at, is this going to help our clients? Is it going to make them do what we stand for? I mean, ThermoGrid is all about being accurate. It's about being efficient, and it's about being profitable.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at creating new features, we're looking at how can we maximize those three areas? Because if we can do that, then we know the ROI for our clients is going to be there, and they're going to grow, and it's going to be good growth, because there's just too many companies out there. They'll grow, 40%, 50% a year, and they get to be a $10 million company, and there's really nothing to show on the bottom line. And that's pretty scary. So, we're looking at helping businesses, and we have clients that are, 100, technicians to one technician in the field.
Gotcha.
And we love seeing it every year that they grow, but they keep their profitability as they grow.
So really quick, Adam, I don't want to interrupt you, but you mentioned that you have some clients who have 100 technicians and some that have one. Do you see a pain point with clients that are too small or too large? Like, is it overwhelming if you're only a one-man show, or and then do you hear people that are saying, oh, I really need these features because they have like 50 or 75 technicians? What's your feedback on that? Because that's a massive difference in sizes of companies, and like you need different structures inside of a company whenever they're two different sizes like that.
Yeah, and part of it comes back to us, like when we train the companies, because if we were to try to train a one-man show the same way that we train a company that has 100 technicians, it's going to be a flop, because they will get overwhelmed. They won't be able to utilize all the features because they're just not at that place yet. But the thing that our clients like that start out at one, they love it because they're the ones going out and doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do the work and they're doing all these paper invoices and stuff like this, they forget to bill clients. They don't process the payments. They forget to follow up on estimates that were given. There's just a lot of things that fall through the cracks. And then, they spend 10, 12 hours a day out in the field to go home and do all the administrative work.
Do 10, 12 hours at home until 2 o'clock in the morning.
So once they get done with all the administrative paperwork, then they go right back out in the field. So it's this vicious cycle. And that's the beauty about, ThermoGrid for those size of companies, is that the administrative work is done. So when you have a phone call come in, it pre-populates the client for you. All the history, everything. You don't even have to type it in. And then you dispatch the job to yourself, so it's there. You actually have a calendar. It gives you reminder notifications to remind you something's coming up. And then when they add the estimate to it, the estimate's there. It's tied to the job. They can pull reports on all lost opportunities or all the ones that are sold. But they take the payment in the system. It's just all there and tied together. But when they sell a job, it automatically creates a purchase order. It orders it all by model number. The actual price they have contracted with their supplier.
Nice.
It automatically creates an install task sheet if somebody else is doing the work, and all the notes are there, all the pictures are there automatically.
What about the service? What about the service side of it? Is it same with that? Like, so if you're ordering parts for a service, like if it's a non-stock truck item?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that'll work exactly the same where it can create automatic purchase orders. But then we have a cool feature that I think is cool, because when I became general manager, I had two major pain points that, it's like I want to pull my hair out. One of them was managing maintenance agreements, or, PMs or contracts.
True story.
And the other one was inventory. So what we've done is we've taken not only some of the basics to make it all streamlined and easy, but we've taken the two biggest pain points and made them simple. So with inventory, when you're a service technician and you go to the price book to add a part to the client's estimate, it will show them how many of each component is on their truck.
Ooh.
And then they add it to the invoice. And if the client actually buys it, it automatically removes it off their truck. So the count goes down, and it automatically creates a restock sheet to reorder so they can keep a full truck. Because if we can keep the technicians in the home instead of driving to pick up parts, you're now doubling your revenue. So one of the things that this allows us to do, because you've probably seen every software company will say, oh, this is going to increase your profit. You're going to grow 40% a year.
Oh, yeah.
We guaranteed in writing, if we will boost their
Nice.
profits by 25% minimum, or we will refund their money. So, that's something that we've done because we just want to put our money where our mouth is. I mean,
totally.
And we know what's going to happen. So,
so with the inventory management, also, if they can see, oh, I should have 3 of these Turbo X capacitors on my van, and you go out there and there's none on there, you're like, okay, so somebody forgot to do something somewhere along the way, or somebody else is being less than honest, maybe, or something fell out the back of a van somewhere. So,
and that's it. I mean, that's one of the things that makes inventory control tough, is because people will. I mean, I experienced putting up a fence, to keep people out. They would jump the fence.
I mean, gates with locks on them. Yeah,
all of that. So, but by doing this inventory process, what happens is, to use it on a job, you have to select it, and it automatically removes it off the truck. So you know that it is one of those other areas if it's missing and if their counts are off. Yeah. So it'll even track inventory variance for the company and tell them how much each technician is off on their counts.
Dang, get out of here. Really?
Yeah. I mean,
so when you're going through to do a scorecard or something, and you're like, hey, by the way, Mr. Joe, you have like $50,000 in inventory missing, so we're gonna need to talk about that. So
yeah, it'll do the variance on cost of the components and quantity of components as well, because even if you're only off by $100, I mean, that could be a very big quantity of smaller parts, and that just should not happen.
So how about, okay, so on the inventory side, I got 2 questions for you. Refrigerant and wire nuts.
So wire nuts to me would be a consumable. So consumables are tagged to items in the price book. So every time you go out and do a service job, you're going to have, because there's more than just wire nuts. I mean, you're going to have screws, you're going to have silicone, you're going to have maybe shoe covers that you wear, all sorts of stuff. So we help companies figure out what their consumable level should be for service jobs and also replacement jobs. And we have that dialed in pretty good. So this way they are accounting for all costs, because those are typically things that are not charged for on a job. It's not even thought about until the end of the year. And it's like, whoa, I didn't hit the profitability I wanted. I wonder why.
Or you go to a supply house and you're like, what in the hell? You got $300 worth of truck stock? Like, what is that? And then you look through and it's like black gloves, shoe covers, wire nuts. Oh, I ran out of glue. You're like, all this other stuff. You're like, oh, yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's had the same experiences with inventory, but, inventory is maybe not a, one-man shop. They're not going to jump in and do inventory. But even with a one-man shop, like, so I have a friend of mine, and we're not much larger than a one-man shop now currently, because we just started this new company. And with him, like every time you turned around, he was like, oh yeah, I forgot I have this. And then we would buy something like a fan blade, and then 2 days later we'd see a fan blade in his warehouse or his little storage unit. I'm like, what in the hell? You just went and bought a fan blade and you have one hanging on your wall right there. He's like, yeah, I forgot about it. Yeah. It's very, very common, and it would definitely benefit every size company.
Yeah, I agree.
Unfortunately, not all of them do it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that also. But let's just get started with ThermoGrid, and then let's work towards the inventory management. So with the inventory management, are you able to job cost everything also, and is it instantaneous?
Yeah, it's all automatically created. So it brings in the cost of all the parts that were either bought for the job, pulled from inventory, and it's calculating, like if a company is larger where they pay commissions for selling projects, the commission's automatically calculated. So there's different types of structures that can be created where, if they discount maybe 10%, it drops our commission a full percentage. If they go between 10 and 15%, it drops at 2%. All that's automatically calculated, or they can pay by gross profit. But when you go to the job costing side, the commission's already there. It's already calculated. It's automatically in the payroll report as well. And then labor's automatically calculated in there. So if they do task pay, hourly, all of those things. So when the technicians clock in, because that's just another feature that we have, is they clock in for payroll purposes if they're hourly, and they clock in to each job for the sake of job costing. So if we have 3 technicians on a job, it'll take their hourly rates and their total time on a job, and it automatically inserts that in the job costing, so you can compare the actual labor cost versus what you accounted for to make sure that you're really accounting for labor, because that is probably one of the biggest challenges as far as cost of goods sold to manage.
So what about travel time to the job? Is that also calculated into it, or is that going to be factored somewhere else?
So it depends on how the company wants to do it. Some companies, that's its own area, and they will clock in and out for the sake of travel time, so they can see that on its own. Some people, they don't account for travel time, because one of the features we have is we want to know on the job time. So inside the payroll report, when you look at it, it will show that this technician was clocked into jobs for, let's say, 5 hours of the day, but they were clocked into the day for 10 hours. They're only 50% efficient. It calculates that for them because there's certain, again, that's another metrics that we got to keep people on the job, because they're not making the money when they are only on the jobs for half of their work time.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so I have 2 questions about that. And I wonder if they become penalized because of a dispatching error that causes 30-minute travel time when they're used to having an average of 6-minute travel time. And then I guess I've heard of people who will pay, like I know a plumbing company will pay $30 on the wrench time, and then when they're not on the wrench time or on the job time, they pay like $10 an hour or something like that. Is that able to be factored? And then the on and off payroll time, because that seems very complicated to me. But then also the what was the first thing I said?
So calculating the pay time.
Yeah.
Because the thing is about, plumbing and HVAC and some of those other industries, there are very complicated pay structures that businesses implement. I mean, it's like, let's see how complicated we can make this, and then make it where it takes millions of administrative hours to manage. I'm one of them. That's why I say that. So I'm not, so what happens is we have it where some companies do what's called piece rate. They pay technicians a percentage of the revenue they bring in. Some do task-based pay, which means you install a thermostat, you get $10. You install a line set, you get $50. Well, our system's able to calculate all of that automatically.
Oh, sweet.
So when the technicians go out and do, let's say, their job and they're getting paid task pay, it automatically goes into payroll. But here's another thing that this does that no other platform does. When you pay task pay legally, federally, you have to track their hours and their overtime hours and minimum wage to make sure that you are legal as a business. So our system automatically accounts for their time, minimum wage for their area, and overtime wages. And what it will do is if they're ever under it'll actually bonus the technician up automatically to keep you legal.
Nice. Yeah. Because I had a labor audits last year, and that was basically the only thing that they were looking for. They were like, how many hours did they work? Did they get paid at least minimum wage for the hours that they were there and the overtime? And I was like, oh yeah, way past all that. And we were able to show that, and they're like, okay, you're good. And
And that's where a lot of companies struggle, is just keeping track of that if they do task-based pay. Because I had a company that I was working with quite a bit as far as just we're in the same group, like training group and stuff like that. And they were fined over $70,000 because they couldn't prove the overtime and the wages for an individual that was on task-based pay. And they knew for a fact he was over, like he was clear, he was good. Yeah. But they couldn't prove it. And,
that
so
sucks.
it can be really, really costly. So, it's just those types of life experiences. Fortunately, I never had to deal with that personally, but hearing that's like, okay, this is a problem. And, I'm working with a company that's part of using ThermoGrid right now. And they spent doing payroll alone. They spent 3 solid days calculating payroll. And it's because of the task pay and the piece rate and filling out that spreadsheet to track overtime and everything. And they use ThermoGrid now, and they're down to 2 hours.
That's crazy. I have a friend that is in Virginia, and they have 60 technicians, I think. Yeah, 60 technicians across multiple trades. And their payroll lady, she has to do, I know she said 2, she may have said 3 days where they, for payroll every week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy cow. But thinking about them in particular, they had a problem at our last meeting and of breaking apart departments. And so they have one tech that would do multiple trades and breaking apart their labor percentages for each department. Is that something that you could do with ThermoGrid?
Yeah, it'll show. So in ThermoGrid, you can create as many different categories. So you can have HVAC, you can have plumbing, you can have electrical, roofing, radon.
Mm-hmm.
You can have as many as you want. It's all customizable that way. And when a technician clocks into a job, it's calculating that total time. So when I go to the payroll report, there's an hours like a number on there,
mm-hmm.
and it's clickable. So they can click into it and a window will pop up and show you
mm-hmm.
exactly how many hours in each department that they worked, whether it was plumbing or whether it was commercial, new construction, residential. Yeah. So that's all customizable, and it will automatically track that as well.
So you could even possibly get a break on some insurance if you have a tech that may be listed as a commercial HVAC person, which is a higher insurance rate, and then you can prove that they only do like 1% on commercial.
Absolutely.
You never know with insurance companies though. So I guess whenever you're talking about the time on job, is that something that they still have to click in, like they have to click arrive? Because in the past I've had this problem where like I'll check on a technician and they're like 30 minutes into a job and it still says they're driving, and they're like, oh crap, I forgot to hit arrive. And it's like the next job they forgot to hit arrive, and then the next job they forgot to hit arrive, and you're like, all right, I'm not going to pay you anymore if you don't hit arrive. But then it's like, legally you have to pay you. So
right, unless you make them task-based pay.
Right. Sure. Yeah, good point.
But yeah, so I mean, that's just a common thing. It's kind of like, how do I invoice a client if I don't create the invoice? I mean, there's certain things that must be done.
Yeah.
And some way or another, we got to let the system know that we are on a job site.
Yeah.
Because we might have multiple job sites at one location. Uh-huh. And that's where some platforms that automatically clock people in by like geofencing and stuff like that, it clocks them into the wrong jobs. Mm-hmm. So we do have a new feature coming out though that is gonna solve that problem on how you can automatically clock somebody into the job when
Does
they
it
arrive.
Shock them? Like just send like bolts of electricity to them?
Well, they actually won't even have to do anything. I mean, we're trying to eliminate that type of a challenge where somebody just forgets to do something.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something that you just have to remember to do your job. But we do have a process in place, and it's all mapped out on how we're going to be able to solve the challenge, but also make it so we don't create other challenges such as logging, clocking into the wrong job. So
yeah. So my idea was to put this huge red sticker on their windshield that said, "Don't forget to arrive." But then it's like, then it creates, then they can't see to drive. So
right. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, cool. Man, I have just keep going with your stuff, because I have lots of other questions too.
So, one of the things that we hear, because you kind of mentioned earlier, the benefit for smaller companies and larger companies. And, we talked about the smaller companies, all the administrative work is done. So they don't have to hire somebody when they're fresh out of the gates, and they can't afford to hire somebody in the office right now. So it buys them time to kind of accumulate the profitability, so they can hire somebody when it's the right time. Mm-hmm. And then for larger companies, when we have 100 technicians, the problem is that we have seen through many years of personal experience and working with all these other contractors, is that usually when we get to having 30 technicians in the field, or even less, what happens is the administrative wages will continue to climb at a very quick rate. And sometimes it becomes balanced with field staff. That's when you throw away your profit as a business, because there are certain percentages and ratios that you should be within as a company to remain profitable. So what we're doing is, because in most companies, they hire somebody to manage the maintenance agreements. They have somebody do purchasing. They have somebody do, and it's like one person for one little task. And with ThermoGrid, what happens is, managing maintenance agreements and all those other administrative tasks, they're done automatically. So you don't need to keep hiring people to manage those jobs. And just to give you an idea, like maintenance agreements, that was number 2 pain point for me as general manager, because we had like thousands of agreements that we didn't fulfill at the end of the year, and we knew we couldn't do it.
Right.
And one of our core values is, integrity. So you got to do the right thing. Well, so what we did is, most softwares, when you sell a maintenance agreement, you need to attach it to the client. You need to set your visit dates. You need to create a subscription. Then you need to batch your payments. And then, you have an accounting software, maybe QuickBooks, where you have to have a subscription created there. And then you got to go in and click a button to receive the payments every month. And you have thousands of memberships. That's why you need one person to manage just that one task. But in ThermoGrid, what we've done is made it where those things are, you have to do them. And that's what ThermoGrid's about. If you have to do something every time, why not just make it automatic? So when we attach that maintenance agreement to the client, it pre-schedules the visit dates. It automatically creates a subscription. It automatically charges their card or the bank account. It automatically batches the payments. It automatically sends over a sales receipt to QuickBooks as the payment received. And if it doesn't receive, it automatically emails you that the payment didn't clear, and it doesn't send it through. So it's one step in managing maintenance agreements.
That's amazing. So with the QuickBooks, is it a two-way communication or is it a one-way communication with QuickBooks?
It's actually two-way communication, and every client has a unique identifier, so it doesn't duplicate clients or anything like that.
Sweet.
So it keepes the accounting clean, which all the accounting individuals that would hear this would be like, oh, thank God. Because that's their nightmare. So we have two-way communication. You can actually sync an invoice multiple times from ThermoGrid, and it makes it where you don't need multiple people in an accounting software. You can have one person in there. Everything's done from ThermoGrid. It allows you to do project billing, all of it by doing that.
That's really cool. So with the invoices or jobs in themselves, is there an ability to do multiple day jobs, or do you have to create a project for that?
Multiple day jobs is something that we can do as well. And it's funny that you ask that, because most softwares, you actually have to create a whole new job, and some of those softwares create a whole new invoice, and then it's kind of messy there. But in our system, if you have a job, because we know in HVAC, plumbing, we know that we have to go back to jobs. Sometimes we can't complete the install, or maybe it's a holding for parts or something like that. So you can create a job today. If you're going back, next Thursday, you just add an additional appointment to the same job, job number, same notes, same invoice, everything.
So one of the things that I think is really amazing, not only this feature, but the fact that it pops up whenever when you're looking at the client on the dashboard, is the cost per equipment. So the investment that someone's made in their piece of equipment over the lifespan, which is freaking amazing to me. And then for it to pop up on the screen whenever you're booking the call, is that still a feature, or tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've noticed is some technicians, it's harder for them to make recommendations on replacement or sell. So this is a feature that we've put in place because we feel like it's very important to just be able to give the facts. It's not about selling. It's about letting a client choose what's best for them. So when you take that phone call and the client automatically pops up, you have access to everything. You can see the type of equipment they have, model numbers, serial numbers, the warranty, and it does show you the cost as well. So you can see the total dollar amount since you started working with this client that has been put in for repairs on this system. And you can just easily show them, this is how much you've spent on each piece of equipment. Do you want to look at your options, or What do you
Yeah.
want to do?
BT Dubs, you spent $11,000 on this 19-year-old system. Are you sure we're going to keep doing this?
You could have bought a new system
Right.
already.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I mean, with other programs, you can find it if you search for it, but being front and center like that, like you said, technicians have a hard time. Sometimes some technicians have a hard time uh, presenting that to the client. Like, hey, look, you've spent a lot of money on this. Should we start looking at, replacement options? And worst case scenario, they say no. I mean, but then you're at least presenting it like, hey, this is how much you spent over the last 3 years or 5 years or 10 years on your system, and you have a leaking accumulator. Like, it's not a massive expense, but it's just adding to the expenses that you've accrued so far. So I think that feature is extremely valuable, especially if you have outbounders in the office. They can also use that whenever they're calling the clientele also.
Yeah, and we actually have a marketing program in our system as well. So we can run reports on age of equipment, by type of equipment, and we can do it on repair expenses as well. Like, let's say we wanted to see every client that has spent over X amount in the last year. We can run that report and we can click a button and send a campaign to all of them instantly.
Wait a minute. So you have you have an email marketing campaign, sorry, within ThermoGrid?
Yes. Yep. So
Get out of here.
the reports are easy to pull because, in most areas, the average life is 12 years for a system. So you can do a replacement campaign, when you need those. And you can do it by cost of equipment. You can do it by clients that have never been on a maintenance agreement before and market to them. You can do it by clients that have been on a maintenance agreement, but they canceled. These are quick reports. It's literally you click a button and it tells you the data, and then you choose if you want to send email marketing, text marketing. Text marketing you got to opt into for legal purposes.
Okay.
But
So
yeah, you can do it right.
What about follow up? So like a technician went out there and presented 3 options and didn't do any of them, and then you can set up like a drip campaign to follow up with them.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're working on as far as the marketing goes is we're looking for we're actually going to be implementing automatic drip campaigns. So what we would do, because we have, like myself and other people in the company that have experience in this trade that have done very good at growing multiple different businesses, double-digit profitabilities, and very quickly. So we kind of can help companies set up these campaigns that maybe they don't know how to do marketing. Maybe they don't know who to market to, when to market to them. And so what we're going to do is when we set them up, we set up a certain type of job, and based on the results. So let's say we have a 12 plus opportunity and we do not convert the appointment into a lead. Well, it'll automatically put that client on a list, and then you can have it where automatically reoccurring will send out messages to them to educate them about safety and average life of equipment and using third-party sources. So we can give the templates that they use for the marketing and also how to set it all up. So they just set it and they just can walk away and it'll do its thing.
So mentioning the email and text messaging, is there a notification set up also? So like a booking notification and then like a reminder notification email and text message that's able to be sent out?
Absolutely. That's one of the most frustrating things to, especially a technician that's on task pay.
Yeah.
Is when you get to the job site and nobody's there.
Right.
So in the system, it will, and you get to choose. You can set up as many notifications as you want, the types of notifications. You can do it by job type. All of that's customizable. But yeah, if you want to notify somebody a month ahead of time, a week ahead of 2 hours before, hour before, 30 seconds,
right.
then it'll keep notifying them.
Cool. And then whenever we leave, is there a way for us to set up a follow up? Like a lot of people will integrate with someone like PulseM or Broadly that'll send like follow up emails as far as asking for reviews. But it's really nice if you can like get a text message sent pretty quickly saying, hey, how was X technician? Would you leave them a review type thing? Do you have that capability, or would you need to integrate with someone like Broadly?
It's actually the same feature as our marketing
Oh,
program that
cool.
we have. So we have automatic messages in our system and we have manual messages in our system.
Okay.
And what that means is, like, when we dispatch a job, for instance, some people like it to automatically
Hmm.
remind them of the appointment. They don't
Hmm.
want to have to, click a button to send it. So we have automatic messages, but the manual ones means that maybe you don't want to send a review request to everybody because maybe you don't know how good a job you did.
Yeah.
But there's certain people that you just went way over the top. You did a
Yeah.
great job, above and beyond, and you want to send them the message. And you can do that. There's a button right on the job. You don't have to
Hmm.
hunt for it. It's just you click on the job and you send them the notification, and it'll have this customized notification letter. It looks personal, and there's a link on there for them to just click a button and
Hmm.
post a review for you. And what
Sweet.
we have found as well is this way you can actually have it go to places that are meaningful. Like Google is going to help your company.
Yeah.
And, some of those places, having a review posted to like some sort of dashboard.
Website somewhere
Yeah,
random.
I mean, it's not going to have the same impact,
Right.
especially on SEO and stuff like that. So that's definitely something else that can be done.
Cool. Let's see. I know I got a lot more questions and stuff, but I'm assuming you have some sort of native GPS tracking in the tablets that's used, or do you have to use like a third party app for GPS tracking?
That's all built into our system. So,
Okay.
and it actually ties into the timesheets. And I think that that's one thing that's kind of a little bit unique to us as well, is when the technician clocks into their job and to the day and things like that, it automatically geolocates them and stamps it right to the timesheet. So you can see that they were clocked in
Nice.
from this time to this time, but you can see where they were exactly when they clocked in and when they
Yeah.
clocked out.
Yeah, that's cool because I've used T-sheets in the past, and that was like the thing that I really loved about that, because you had some people that would clock in from their house and then not even leave the house for like 10 or 15 more minutes, and then you're like, no, sir, that's not how this works.
Yeah. Yeah, so all that's there, and it with ours, it
That's
actually when you do the dispatching, there's a little symbol, it's a globe, and you click on that, and it shows you where all your supply houses are located. So if you have a newer technician and they don't know which supply house is closest to
Oh,
them,
sweet.
helps them kind of get to the right place. All the jobs show up, and it color codes every type of job, so you know where your installs are at, or your repair jobs or maintenance jobs, and then all your trucks will show up as well.
Oh man, the worst thing in the world is having that technician drive. They're literally next door to a supply house, and they drive 30 minutes across town to the supply house. I forgot about this supply house, or I never knew that supply house was there, like whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that. That's really cool. The mobile side of things, you have I think, am I correct in saying that you have a new app that's coming out soon? Is that correct?
Yeah, so our application right now can be used on really any halfway newer type of device, whether it's a laptop, desktop, tablet, smartphone. And the thing that most of our clients like about the application that we have today is that even if you're a manager and you want to do administrative stuff from your smartphone,
Yeah.
you can log in from anywhere, anytime, do reporting. You can audit certain types of invoices.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool. But we do have a new mobile application that's coming out that it's just designed to work a little bit differently, because right now we do have offline capabilities with our application. So technically, they have the best of all worlds. But now what we're doing with this new mobile app is we're making it where it's a no-brainer on how to use the program, where a technician, they just swipe from right to left, and it walks them through what they need to do on their job.
Nice.
And they can't forget anything. It's just right there. And then all of the features that we have currently, we're just making it where it really doesn't matter about the internet service. I mean, ultimately we got to connect every so often at some point, because you need to update all the other devices, but literally you'll be able to do anything, anywhere, anytime, and Doesn't matter if you have internet or
So
not.
with that, will they have to do like a daily sync, like every morning to
This,
make sure?
yeah, the system's automatically going to do all that.
Okay.
So when you get in range of some sort of service,
Uh-huh.
then it's going to push everything to to the server.
So theoretically, I'm not saying I'd recommend this at all, but theoretically, they could take a tablet that does not have cell service and then do the work, and then every so often tether it to their phone throughout the day, like once at lunch and once in the afternoon or something. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I recommend that at all, but that's a possibility.
Correct. It is.
Okay.
So yeah, as long as you connect on a Wi-Fi or a hotspot of some kind,
Gotcha.
then it'll automatically push everything through.
That's cool. I like that. That's really awesome. And that's currently, or is that going to be a new feature that's coming out?
So the mobile application itself, we have done. There's a couple other things that we're doing to get both programs to tie together. So
Okay.
our launch date is going to be March 2020.
Okay. So right around the corner.
Yep.
Awesome. And there was something else that I was thinking of. As soon as you said that, I was like, man, I need to ask about that too. And of course, my flighty brain has then gone somewhere else. It's this stuff here is just like, this is right up my geek alley. Like I love this stuff almost to a fault, probably. And the technicians on the technician side of things, photographing things and putting it in there. Forms, that's what I was going to talk about. Boom. The forms, is there a way to create custom forms that are mandatory depending on certain tasks? The reason, let me preface that with if I have a water leak issue. Okay, so I'm going through, or I did go through recently, a lawsuit where a technician was called out on a service call where the owner of the house, this is a rental property, we went out there and the coil that had never been maintained. This is the first time we've been there. We didn't install the system, so we were not liable for any of this stuff. But we got there, it had never been maintained. It was in a closet with like cheap hardwood floors. So like all the dog hair got sucked straight up in the coils. Filters were never changed. The technician said verbally, we need to pull this coil and clean it. He said, can you clean it in place? He was like, yes, I can clean it in place, but it's not going to do a great job. We did it. We only wrote down that we cleaned it in place. We didn't write down and get decline for pulling and cleaning the coil.
Right.
Well, then the coil leaked again because there was residual dirt in the primary drain pan. So 21 days later, the coil leaked again. We went back out there. We have terms and conditions that kind of protected us, but we really should have had better paperwork involved. And now I have it set up so that if anything water related comes about, it automatically forces a technician to have this form completed and signed by the homeowner, stating, basically what our policy is on water leaks, and you must have a secondary float switch installed. If you don't have one, we need to get you one, and you waive your rights to everything your whole life and your second born child if you don't.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of a big thing, is just recommendations and having a client, do that. So in our system, when a technician puts their order together and their estimate or quote of whatever kind it is, what a lot of companies do is they do what's called an auto tag. So when they select a certain repair, it automatically brings in whatever they want to have with it. Such as, all recommendations full circle. And we actually did a program or training today on this, that, when the client has a dirty blower motor, well, there's a reason why it's dirty. You can't just stop at the dirty blower motor.
Right.
You look at, bad filtration, and, bad filtration is only a piece of it as well, because now you got to go back and look at the ductwork is all dirty. And then the ductwork got dirty somehow. I mean, is there, infiltration? So, So they select blower motor, and all those other things pull in automatically. So it has to be recommended. And then those options stay. So if the client refuses it, they move on and they say, okay, this is a lesser option. But seeing is believing, and sometimes technicians go out to a home and the client's not there. So sometimes it's hard to kind of transfer really what's going on. So in the system, what technicians do is they can take as many pictures as they want, and they put a caption in with it, and they get to choose what pictures and caption the client sees and which ones are kind of hidden. If they check the box, the caption and the picture is going to be on the estimate and in that invoice for the client so they can see it. And then there's custom documents in the system as well. And we actually provide a lot of custom documents. Might have a 156-point inspection that I give people. Pretty extensive. Wow. Not everybody does that. Yeah. But this way, it's that the technician can't forget all the things that need to be looked at and put the condition on there. Because even if they're terrible at sales, these job documents that we have that we provide, they put in the condition. There's no emotion in it. Is it good? Is it bad, or is it, maybe it needs to be looked at here fairly soon? And they just check the boxes, and they check a box. Now the pictures, the caption, the checklist and job document, all of that attaches to the same invoice that the client receives.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
Can't forget it. Client can see it.
It can almost sell itself too if you have that tech that just doesn't sell, and then they're like, oh, what about this? I mean, it sucks to have a customer, pull the sell out of a technician, but that almost presents that capability.
Yeah, and it's something that most of the companies that we bring through and train, there are some that have no problem selling. They're motivated by money. That's great. But we do have some that their skill and the reason why they're hired is because they're extremely technical. They can fix anything.
Yeah.
So we just got to make sure that the client always gets the same benefit, whether it's the selling tech or it's the technical technician, where things are presented and it can be the client's choice.
Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. All right. I don't want to take up too much of your time, Adam, and I appreciate everything that you've given us and telling us everything about ThermoGrid. And there's a lot more I know. I've watched the videos on YouTube, so they're really cool. With that being said, if somebody wants to learn more about ThermoGrid, what's the best option? Who do they reach out to? How do they get in touch with your team?
I mean, I think the best way would be to either call us directly at 1-800-592-3611, or they can visit our website, which is thermogrid.org. And what we would typically do, because we want to make sure that, our program is right for a company and they know what to expect and they get the most out of it too. So what we'll typically do is we'll learn about their business, how long they've been in business, what kind of challenges they have, what's causing them to look for a new program and where they're going, what their goals are. And that's what we do when we lay out our training program to get this software implemented, is have it designed to hit those checkpoints for them. We even do evaluations on businesses where we look at their profit and loss statement. And we go through and look at the number of employees they have in the office and the field. And we make those recommendations because, again, we do guarantee that profitability boost. So we have to make sure that they're going to get it. And that's how.
So two things really fast. What's the onboarding process? How long does it typically take?
With the type of guarantee that we have, most would probably think that it's a long process. And actually,
a month or 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, because some softwares out there, they say 3 months straight up. It's going to take 3 months. Well, with ours, it's actually quicker the better. So we work very, very hard at getting people implemented very quickly because we know that the desire to change is there right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to use that to help them get this all put together. So what we do is they send us their pricing from their suppliers and it has everything on there. We do all the work. We convert it all. We do auto tags. So this way, when they choose a air conditioner, proper size line set, proper size coil, proper furnace match, everything matches together. So they don't have to look it up.
Dang.
And we do that setup, and we can do that type of setup in less than a couple days for somebody.
Wow.
We can import all their client information so they don't lose anything there. We can do that usually within a week. So our goal is to get somebody set up within a week to a week and a half. And then we do about a week of kind of boot camp training as far as scheduling, dispatching, invoicing, taking payments. And, those are that week, what we're doing is we're doing 5 1-hour sessions. And that's enough to get this implemented and start using it. But we do continue to work with our clients and help them implement more and more features as time goes on. And it's all included in what we do. So there's no extra fees for support. There's no extra fees for training. It's just
that's cool.
all there.
That's really awesome. That is really cool. So so what's typically the investment opportunity for people to do this? I mean, do y'all set up on tiers, or is it like per technician, or?
Yeah, so we have a buyout option, which means somebody can do a one-time fee, and then they have no user subscriptions forever. So if they start doubling the size of employees that they have, there's no fees for those employees. So that's one option that we have. The other option that we have is a monthly subscription per user. And there is a difference between, if it's one person in the company or if there's 100 people in the company.
Gotcha.
And then the activation that we have is an activation fee where we, if they want us to take all the information and just get it done quick, like I just kind of discussed, we have that activation fee to make it where we can just do all the heavy lifting for them, make it fast. And we do have different tiers for activation fees. If they're starting from scratch, well, that's pretty easy. There's not a lot to do that. But that's
is the per user, is that per technician or per, like, does that include office staff too?
We do per login.
Per login. Okay, cool. Yep. Cool. Just curious about that. All right, cool. I think that's all the questions that I have. Is there anything that you want to add before we wrap things up?
I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, the main reason, the main reason that companies, really, really like ThermoGrid and what it provides is they're going to go from probably 4 or 5 different platforms, and then ThermoGrid will do all of it. So you don't have to have separate platforms for your phones, voice over IP, your marketing, your price book and flat rate price book. We have flat rate included in our system automatically. So
we didn't even discuss that, but that's another thing that's in there. Like there's so much involved with your program that's really freaking amazing. I think that it's a really cool program.
Yeah, I think what we've really done here is, we have a great team of individuals that really care for the clients that we work with, and I think what we did is we really wanted to bring true meaning to the all-in-one, because a lot of people say all-in-one, but then you need all these other platforms.
Like I got trapped into that one time a long time ago, and it was like, oh yeah, we do inventory management, but you actually do it through QuickBooks. I'm like, no, then you don't do it. That really ticked me off a long time ago. Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing about ThermoGrid and sharing a little bit about ThermoGrid. There's a lot more about ThermoGrid. I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody has any questions listening to this episode, and feel free to reach out. I will post the number and the website in the show notes. But if you have any other questions, burning desires to find something out pretty quick, feel free to send me an email, tersh@icebound.us, and I will get you connected with the right person, or if I know the answer, I'll let you know. Also, another short little excerpt about automation, and Adam touched on this earlier about automation being key to speeding processes and procedures up and helping streamline your day. One of the things that I do is, one of my automations is an automatic email reply, an automatic email responder. So I typically try to only check my emails twice a day. And anybody that sends me an email, they're going to get an autoresponder that says that it's, just that. Basically, I'm going to check my emails twice a day, and I'll reply as soon as I can. And it limits the expectations of clients if they happen to be emailing me, or vendors, so they're not expecting that immediate reply. So it helps limit expectations, but at the same time, it also helps streamline your day, so you're not having to feel like you're not stuck to your phone, you're not stuck to your desktop, and that that email notification that pops up, you need to go check it right then. And that's another suggestion that I have, short suggestion, is turn your desktop notifications off, because if you're in the zone and the desktop notification pops up, even if it's something stupid like Facebook, that's 7 to 10 seconds that's just going to distract you and get you off focus. So automation is key. If you have not ever read, if you've never picked up the book, Replaceable Founder by R. Mizell, pick up that book. It's really, really good. He talks a ton about automation and streamlining your business and basically becoming replaceable as the founder of your organization. With that being said, thank you again for listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast, the podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians considering becoming business owners again. Thank you, and we will talk to you again next week. Until then, have a great day.